styling from an old project. Okay, I'll just pick this up. Come over here. Okay, before that, we saw the basics, right? How to initialize a node project, right? So npm init dash y, that will create your package.json file, which will contain your scripts that you can use during your uh, to quickly type in, some quick commands, and also it saves your dependency list of your dependencies in the package.json. So as I mentioned last time, we'll be needing the uh, nodemon. So within my development environment, I want the nodemon to be saved. Right. So nodemon is there in my dependency. So next, what I can do is just simple start command that will do nodemon and then dot to start the main file, that is index.js. So I will create index.js over here. And somebody at Udit, right? Hey Udit,
Hello, Kunal.
how are you doing Udit?
I'm doing good. What about you?
Yeah, I'm doing good as well. Okay, so we just got started, right? So what I'm doing is I'm taking and styling from an old project, and then I just initialized a node project in my folder. In the folder, there was a package.json where I just installed nodemon and created a script, start nodemon, and then dot, and then I've created an index.js file that will act as my server. So next, to initialize it, I just do a npm start. All right. So this is just my server is started, but I'm not. This it's just an empty file. Okay. Before that, I need other dependencies also, right? So obviously npm express. Okay. So once that's involved, install. I'll just do const express equal to require express to get my express library inside the index.js, and then initialize the server using uh, express function, like invoking the express function. Okay, and let's just get started. Right, app dot get the default route request response. Okay, before this, let's just comment this out. Let's just do. Okay, so app dot listen. I'll just put port 5000 over here. So if I go into the browser and type localhost 5000, the thing cannot get the default route, right? So after that, I just put the default route over here. Second, in right. Uh, hey Mayuk,
Sorry for being late. Hi.
no, no, it's all right. So we just got started with the project. I just initialized a node project in my folder, created a index.js and installed two dependencies. That is node1 and express.
Yeah,
All right.
got it. Got
Okay.
it.
And I'm just getting started. So in the slash route, I'll just put response.send and a string hi. So if I go there and reload it, you can see the hi is there. Okay. Next, we learned how to serve static files to our website, right? So it was app.use, and we'll use the express middleware, that is express.static. And before this, I'll just do this const uh, path is equal to require path. So path is a inbuilt library in Node.js. You don't have to install it. So we'll just check out the documentation, what it says. So you can go to their website, docs and dependencies. Actually, we just go to docs directly. Over here, I have to search for the latest one, and we'll just scroll down and path. Right, so this is an inbuilt uh, library in Node.js. So what with path we can do various things. We can get the path of a file, basically like in different systems, the path varies, right? So this path can help keep it uniform. Uh, One other thing is this all we won't be using much. The main one is path dot join, right? So path.join takes in a number of arguments and then just joins like this. So it takes in the path like this, different strings, number of strings, and it joins them together and returns a common path. Previously, what we had done was in the xs.static middleware, it takes in the path of the static folder, right? So I'll just create a public public folder over here, and I wanted to serve the public folder, right? So I had to do a underscore their name plus and then public, right? Instead of doing this, I can just do path dot join. I'll just put underscore their name and public. It seems a bit longer, but there are some instances where you might use path for other operations as well. So it's, if you want, you can keep it installed. I'll be using it in this session over here. Okay. So now we are serving the public file as well. So in my public, I'll just create a, uh, let's just, I mentioned login and register, right? So we'll create two files, login, or let's just create HTML login.html. Inside my HTML, our register.html. Okay, and inside this, obviously, I'll need my CSS folder. Okay, I put the wrong one. CSS folder. Okay, all right. And in my CSS, what I'll basically need is this one, these styles over here. I'll just copy it from an old project, and I'll create a style.css and paste it. It's reason I'm doing this is because you can just focus on the backend part and not worry much about the styling or anything. I do avoid this is a bit unprofessional, but I'm not much prepared over here, so let's just go with the flow for today. And next is the register page. Yeah, I'll explain line by line. And register.html. Okay. Hopefully these are linked correctly. Right, all are linked as required. You wonder what I'm doing with the all right, so don't need to focus on this one. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'll come to my index.js. The default route should be the when user is coming to my application, I want them to go to the register page. So I'll just put res.send file, and send file takes in the path of the file, right? So the path, I will specify it to be the log, uh, sorry, the register page. So path dot join. Just a second. path.join to their name, and along with that, it should go into the public, the string. So go into the public. Inside the public, go to the HTML and register.html. Let's just see if this works. And yeah, so it is sending in the file over here. If you guys want to code along, this is the repo. You can just take the styling and sorry about that. All right, so now when they go to the login route, the request response function and response with the send file, and then the directory of the file, so path.join, and that will be the name and the slash public slash html and login.html. All right, so if I go back here, control R, and if I click on this, just okay, yeah, this one will be different. Slash login, right? And this won't work. No issue. Okay, so let's just get into HTML quickly. So the basic head information uh, with the title and the CSS is linked. I've created a section. Inside the section, there's a title login. Inside the total, there's a HR, and then my form for login, which will have two inputs. One is the username and other is the password. And below the form, suppose the user hasn't registered before, they can click on this anchor tag, which has a href of just slash. So we define the slash over here to go to the register page, right? So when they click on this, it will take them to the slash route, that is the register page, if they haven't created an account before. And then this is error handling. We can look into it later. It's not important right now. Okay, this JavaScript part is, you can comment because we'll just look at creating an account and how do we store in database. And for databases, I mentioned that we'll be looking into something called file system, right? So I'll go back into the documentation and I'll just scroll down somewhere over here. We'll have a file system there. Okay, so this has lots and lots of methods that you can use, right? So just a basic, the FS module enables interacting with the file system in a way modeled on standard POSIX functions. Okay, just ignore that. Basically, just look at the first name. Enables interacting with the file system. So what is your file system? Is basically your whole folder over here, right? So the FS module allows you to interact with your folders and files, HTML files, index.js files, anything inside that particular folder, right? So it's an inbuilt library in Node. So to use it, I'll just come to my index.js, put const fs equal to, this can be anything. We just go by the document, like the community standards, and we just put require fs. All right. Next, right? So back to login.html. Inside the form, we've never used this before, right? This two attributes, action and method. So these are, you might have come across them before, but we've never used them because we never had the use had to. So method is a, over here specifies like what type of HTTP request you want to send, post or get, right? So before doing that, I'll just show you one small thing. Copy this. And instead of double, I'll just comment this out and I'll change this to get. Okay. So I'll go back to my form, reload it, go to login. And when I click on login, you can see what happened here, right? It changed the query. It just added two values over here, name, what I've typed in here, and password over here. So what is happening, right? And even these two attributes, you might have put it in your input uh, tags, but never really knew what they use for. Well, basically the name attribute in your input field specify the key values for what will be being, what data will be sent to the backend. So suppose your name is, I just specified as name, right? So the key for this input will be name, whereas the value for this will be with the whatever I type inside uh, my input. So here I just type Kunal, right? So the value is my name over here, Kunal, while the key is the name I specified in the input type. In the case of the input type password, the name was password. That is so they took the key as whatever we put in the name attribute, and the password is the value whatever you type in here. So it came as Kunal. But now, what if I were to say come to my index.js before? Okay, let's just go to login. I'll take this out and put this back. This would give me an error. Why? Because there is no login route defined for a post request. Okay, and you can see it's not tied. There's no data in the end of the URL. So if I come to my index.js, if I put app.post / login response, okay, and let's put res.send in post login. Right, so now it is coming, right? I'll just go back and we'll put log, remove this one over here. You don't really need it, and login. So now it's taking me to the post route, right? And in here you can see it's not uh, the data of the form is not attached to the URL ending. Uh, Come back here. So we have two methods, get and post, in our forms. What is the difference between post and get is that get, as the name specifies, is usually used for requests that need you to get earlier information from a particular location, whereas post request is basically a request that you need for updating information in a particular location. When it comes to forms, get request, it attaches the data to the uh, URL of the request, whereas in the post request, in the case of form submissions, it attaches that information to the body of that request. So I'll just take this out. Or before that, no, let this be. Let this start both. Okay. So we'll just show you the. I'll just show you the get one first. Okay, so I'll clear this out again, right? And I'll put login. Okay, so you can see the information is attached here. Now, suppose say I want to access this information in my uh, backend, right, in my server, and check it in my database. And the form submission is a get method. So I'll go to my index.js and I'll go to the /login of the get request to access this. Anything that comes after the question mark. So the question mark gets attached over here. Okay, so the anything after the question mark, after the route you specified, acts as a query in your case. I mean, in the case over here, And how do I access that query in my backend? So I'll just put const details equal to request dot query. All right. And I'll just put console log details. And I'll go over to my console. I'll put the request again. And here you can see it automatically put it in key value pairs. So over here you can see the key here, name Kunal, and then the next value in
आप मुझे बताओ कितनी पार्टी में गए जहाँ पर 4 औरतें ऐसी करते हुए दिखाई दी
Mayuk, I think you accidentally unmuted.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay, let's just continue. So you can see the and over in this URL basically means the next key value pair. So suppose say I just put another and here and say maybe college and put the equal to srmist and I put this request again. If I come to my VS Code, you can see it's coming over there. Now, why do we not want to use this method, right? You can see clearly my password is exposed not only in the uh, server directly, but also in the parameter over here. So here in the get request for form, your data is not safe when you put it like this, because in a get request, it attaches the data to the end of the request in a form of a query, which which is accessed as a request.query inside your server. And I don't want my password to be exposed like this, right? So anybody uh, in such cases like this, when I'm sharing my screen, anybody can just see it. My data is vulnerable over here. So that is why we use the post request. So I'll take this out. I'll come back to my login.html and we don't want to use the get. So I'll just take this out completely. And method is post, right? So how do I access post requests? Data from the post request. For accessing data from the post request, the data gets attached to the body of the uh, request. So I'll just do console.log request.body. Whenever there's a post request for the login route, right? Over here, I have to reload login and I'll come back here. It's giving me undefined, okay? And why is that happening right now? In to access the body of the request, you need to use another middleware. This should be always in your top, okay? So app.use express.url encoder, and then you just put an option extended is false. So what this middleware basically allows me, it allows me to look into the access the request.body and do some actions with it. So I'll just come back over here. I'll go and reload this, put login and come back. So now you can see, now it's return me the body. The body contains the information got attached to the body in this case, not to the URL. So my in terms of privacy, it is much more better. So I'll come back here and you can see it's not attached to the like the to the URL. I'll just remove that rest.send because I don't want that happening right now. Okay, then it will not load anything. So I want to access the two details now. I'll just use destructuring a name and password equal to request.body. And I'll just put console.log name and password. Come back here, go back and log in. And yeah, so the name and password, I'm getting it from the body of the post request. Okay. Next, in the register route, that is register.html, it's the same thing. So there's your form, register form. It has three inputs. That is your username, email, and password. And then obviously, if the user has an account before, a link to send them to the login page. And the error handling part, that for that we'll look into it later. Yep. Now about the register form, it is same. It's a post request because I want the uh, whatever information that the user is putting it should be attached to the body rather than to the URL, and the action should go to the slash register route. So let's define a route in our index.js. So app.post slash register. It's a post request to the slash register route, and it's a and then the second one is the request response function, and I can do the same thing, destructured. Oh, yeah, but what is it destructuring, right? So in this case, it's destructuring again the name, the email, and the password from the body of the post request. So over here, I'll come in and put name, email, and password from the request.body, and console.log name, email, and password. And for now, temporarily, I'll just put res.send in post register, and I'll come over here, go back, register, and just put that. Right. So now I'm in the register out in post register. I'm getting it, and it's console logging the name, email, and password. But now I want to do something with this data that the user just filled in, right? Uh, so let's just come to our see, we don't want to be serving in the public file, so we'll just create another folder. You could, since we don't uh, know much about DBMS, that is database management systems, as of now. Some of you might have worked with SQL and MongoDB, but for now we'll just use a simple, you could say call it this like a pseudo database. So db.json file, okay, and I'll come to my index.js, and I'll get the this pseudo. What is the spelling of pseudo? Pseudo database, right? And the path of it. So slash db slash db dot json. Okay, hopefully this is correct. Okay, so this is my pseudo database as of now. I've connected the database to my server. Next, we'll start with the register. Okay, when user is registering, right, that time we'll get the name, email, and password. So first off, we'll get the whatever data is there. Okay, before that, what are the three things, not three, like things we want to check when a user is registering? First thing, we want to check if the user exists in our database or not. If the user exists in our database, we'll send an error or a message saying that user already exists. Okay. Uh, Next, if uh, just okay, yeah, that's the main thing. We'll see into the others later. Uh, okay, I'll just come over here in my db.json. Okay, and I'll create a object. Inside the object, I'll have a users array, and inside user, each user will be like each object in the users array will be my user, so they'll have their name. In this case, let's say just my name, then my email, and then say a password, right? So these are the three main things that will be in my database, and I'll just copy paste this, and I'll just play with the details of it. I'll add a one and a two. Okay, so these are my list of users in my pseudo database. I'll just call it. So just assume this is a database as of now. Okay, so now I want to get the already existing users so that I can compare with the new user request that is coming inside. So to do that, I have to get the file, right? So here's where the fs library comes in hand. So I'll just put let's use a let. So way later we can update data equals fs dot uh, just a second, right? Fs, and we'll use the read file uh, over here, and we'll pass in the path of the database. So in the uh, read file itself, you can see it's showing that its first parameter will be in the path, whereas the other is an options that we don't have to look into now, and it's mentioning uh, it's an asynchronous operation. So we for using asynchronous, we saw it a few sessions back. So sudo database. I'll just make the main function asynchronous, and to use it, I can just put an await over here, and let's just console log the data and see what we're getting. And this is for register. Okay, okay, getting an error. I'll just look at it. Unhandled function type error, callback must be a function. Index.js line 27 as expected.
PS UEDO sudo.
And what did I put? I think
EU
this one,
लिखना
right?
spelling check कर लो. Maybe yeah, if that's correct, then in argument also it's correct. No problem.
The same one. Maybe the path. I'll just type this out. I didn't give me any options that time. Okay, not give me any options. Either we can use the read file method that is an asynchronous object, or sorry, operation, or there's another way, much simpler, read file synchronously. So read file sync. So let's just look at what is it. It takes in the path as well and then options. And is that a name itself? This is a synchronous operation in our case. So in this, it will probably not give an error. Let's just go back and register. Come back here. Okay, it gave us a buffer object. And to access this, we just do simple data is equal to data, sorry, JSON dot pass method to get the data from information from the JSON file in the form of an object. And this, okay, reason, and now here, right? So whatever I got the list of all my users from my database exactly as how it was over here. So now in my register route, I have access to all the users in the variable data. So now when user puts in a register request, I want to compare and see if the, like, if a user is already there in my database. Okay. So for that, what I'll basically do is I'll just let exist something is equal to db dot users dot filter, which will return me a new array. And for each user, return user dot name is equal to name in our database. Okay. So why did I use the filter and over here, right? So first off, I'm going into the users array. Inside each array, there's an object, user object. Each user object has a name. So for each object, I'm uh, going through them and comparing if there exists an object where the name of that user is the same name as that came in the request. If it exists, in our case, if exists, we use length over here, meaning it's greater than 0. That means that at least one match comes. That means there is a user over here. So we can just put res dot send user already exists. Okay, and I'll come back and I'll give send, might be an error. Yep. Just a second. What's the error now? Right, data. Uh, right, it's a empty array. I'm not sure why I'm getting that. Come back to register. Okay, right, because I'll just put a small k so we can see what's happening. And yep, now it's done. I'll go back, right? So over here, the name is Kunal. I put register. It's any user already exists because I'm getting the database. In my database is already a user with the name Kunal, like exact match, which I'm checking in my server. So which I'm checking over here. So for each of the users in my database, I'm passing to them and comparing if the name in the database is the same name as the name from the request. And if it does exist in this case, then send user already exists. And yep, just a second, guys. . Okay, so if it exists, then send a response with a like the user already exists. Else, what I want to do is I want to save this user in my database, right? So what I can basically do is before that request.body is this, right? What was the request.body in our case, right? Okay, another. What is there now? Cannot send. Okay, I'm basically sending two. Yeah, this comment this out. I'm sending two requests, right? So it's giving me error for that. And when not actually, I just have to put return. So I get no, it exists out of this request altogether. So my body contains this one over here. It contains the name, email, and password. So it has the basics structure, same structure, or you could call it even schema that we explore later. So it has the same structure as my user object over here. So instead of, I won't be needing these two right now, but we'll need them later. So I'll just put const user equal to request dot body over here. Right. So if the user does not exist in my database, then I want to add him over there. So to do that, in my local data's array, users dot push, and I'll add the user. As simple as that. Now I want this whole object to be updated in my db.json. So for that, I'll again use the file system library, which comes with a method called write file. Write file that takes in the path ESU. Why did I complicated name? Right. And then what I want to do is I want to use the Json.Stringify. The second, what is the, just look at the file now. So its arguments are a file, that is the path in our case, the data in the format of string, it expects the data in format of string, and the options related to the this method. And the final one is a callback in case of an error. So I mean, these are all obvious, very, it's easy to see it in your code editor itself. So json.stringify and take in the data that we defined over on the top. And final one was a callback function for an error in case of an error. So if error, then just put console.log error something. Next, once this one is done, we just put rest.redirect. So redirect is another one method which instead of because we got this error over here, right? Cannot set headers after set request. So instead of doing res.send or res.send file two times, in some cases you'll want to send an alternative uh, response in case like in ours, or if this is there, then respond with this situation, else with another situation. So in by default, you should have at least like one res.send kind of situation. And in other cases, you'll just be having res.redirect. So we'll just redirect to /home once the registration is successful. So we'll come down here, app.get /home, the request response function. That's dot send file. Let's put right path dot join their name and the slash public dash HTML and slash home.html. I'll just get these files from the old one. You can just copy the whole thing. Okay, and on my public home.html and paste this one and the CSS file. We'll try and wrap this up within 15-20 minutes. CSS and home.css and paste. Okay. Come back to my index.js. I can close the command. Sorry, I used the request to give us an error. Okay. I keep this on the side and this one on the side. I'll come back over here. I'll just put a new one, say style. Okay. I'll come to my, let's cross our fingers, hopefully no errors. And you can view the database db.json file simultaneously, right? So now you can see this, suddenly when I put that, there was some change. This is the home page. We don't have to worry about it now. So when I come over here, you can see it updated the db.json, but it's all coming in a single line right now. And over here, you can see name, style. So it did get updated for us, db.json. But why is it coming like this, right? So in the json.stringify, what it does is it just takes in the data, converts into a string, and puts it in a single line. We don't want that happening. I want it to be formatted, right? So what we can do is I'll just go to Json Stringify and go to the MDL document. You can see it takes in 3 parameters. That is a value, a replacer, and a space, right? So value is obviously the whatever we want to convert into a string, or the JSON object we want to convert into a string, we put in the first parameter that we have already done. Replacer, a function that alters the behavior of a base of the stringification process, or an array of string or number that allows the filtering of properties of the value object to be included in the JSON string. We don't want any of this to be happening, so we just put null in that. It's the third parameter that we'll be needing, a string or number object that's used to insert white space, including detention, line break, or parameters, right? So we want our data to be properly formatted. So we'll be using the space parameter, and I'll come back here to my stringify. I'll put a comma null and a strings /t. Now I'll come back to my db.json and I'll go back. We haven't defined a logout. You don't need to worry about that right now. Okay. I'll just put Sahil again. Sahil and gmail.com. Sahil. Now when I click on register, this should be formatted by itself. That, yep. So it did work. So this is as close as you can get to like a real-time database. When I did this for the first time, it was like real magic for me. Like everything just coming over here when I click on it. So if I try again with the name Sahil, it should give me user already exists. Yep. So all working well. Now I'll come to my index.js and I don't need to console these and the body. Okay. Next is the login route. Now I want to check when I put in a request, I want to check if that user exists. if the user exists, then take them to the home. If the user does not exist, then either we can send a request that I mean, like we can cross check in our database if it either exists or there's mistakes. Usually these two cases are combined to one where it just puts in a message, username or password is invalid. So we can send that type of response back to the website in case the values actually are wrong. So now I'll come to my login. Over here, it's the same. Uh, it's the post request, right? So here I'll get the user. I mean the name and password that I've already got. I need to get the data from my file. So this will be fs.read file synchronously. That means after the file is read, then only it will continue to go to the other functions, right? And we learned the meaning of synchronous beforehand. Synchronous means basically line by line. Uh, only once this function is finished, when this function returns something, then only it will move on to the next line. That's what synchronous means. So that is the read file synchronous method that waits till we get some input, and then only until we get something back so that this returns something to the data variable, then it continues to the others. There's probably other methods you can pass over here. Uh, Maybe a callback function. Okay, I'll have to go into this. We'll try and use it in the future so that we can do error handling as well. For now, we'll just focus on login. That will take in the path again. Okay. And then data, because it's a buffer object, we need it, which only the computer can read. We need it in uh, as a JSON object. So JSON.parse data. All right. Uh, Finally, what we want to do is the same thing. In this case, I want the user to exist, right? So let exist is equal to data.users dot filter for each user. Return in the case of user dot name is equal to name, but just name alone is not enough, right? So and user dot password is equal to password. So these are my conditions I want to check in the case of login. Then if exist dot length is greater than 1, sorry 0, then response dot redirect to the home/home route, which I've already defined in the bottom. And then otherwise, else response dot send invalid credentials as of now. Let's test this out. So both these two already exist in my db.json. I'll put login, and yep, it works. And the error here is, let's just see it. Yeah, okay, this we don't need to focus much on right now. Oh yeah, this one. Now it will not give me an error. If I go back, I put login, and I don't get that error in. So it is logging me in. I'll go back. I'll put a wrong one login, invalid credentials. Uh, so one final thing we'll cover is, I mean, not this one. So this is my database, right? This assumes, I mean, databases don't actually be in a server, they stay in some location. But assuming this is my database, suppose there's a breach in my database, right? So you can see the password, the emails, all are exposed over here. So any person who breaches my database can easily access the user's password and username and make you know malicious use of that user's information. This is where authentication comes in. So we'll be trying to authenticate the user. Okay, that is another topic. We'll be trying to you know hash this. Let's see, like encoding this particular Sahil. Suppose say this one's there, right? This Sahil will convert into a random string like this, which only a particular function in the server can identify. Then only, but any person who's trying to hack in will not know like what's the password because it's a hashed string in our case. So we
Basically,
learn
we are
this in
trying
the
to
next.
encrypt it.
Exactly like that. So we'll be doing that in the next session. And one more thing. So if I come over here and I simply put slash home, I haven't even logged in, but I'm still going into the slash home, right? So in the this we want the slash home route to only be accessed when the user is authenticated. That is, he has either logged in or he has registered just then, and then we redirect to the home. So they should be authenticated. Keyword here being authenticated. So with that, we'll be using something called JSON Web Token that we look into the next session as well. So two major topics. One, authentication, because we want user to access routes only when they are authenticated by us in the server. And next is proper uh, hashing in this. That's what it's called, hashing of the user information. So neither we or any person who's trying to make malicious use will know. So we'll create, there's a module called bcrypt.js that allows us to, hash this particular password before even we see it. So it will hash it, create into a random thing. So the person who owns the server will not know what it is. The person who's trying to break into the uh, database and steal it will not know what it is. The only person who will know it is the person who has created that password. So that is what we look into the next session. Uh, that's it for today, guys. So if you have any doubts, you
Kunal,
can let me
can
know.
you stop
Yeah.
sharing? I'll just
Yep.
guys just stay back for a minute. I'll share my screen first. Kunal, have you talked about Postman or any
Uh,
other?
no, I haven't talked about post.
Okay. So just 2 more minutes, guys. So for example, I have this.
Bhaiya, could you enlarge your font?
Sure. Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's fine.
So this is the application that we created on the first day of Node.js. So I'll not explain what these things do. I'm sure you guys are well aware of it. I will only be talking about Postman or this Thunder client. So basically, these are applications which are used for API testing. So in this case, for example, I have created these three APIs. And in order to test these APIs, in these cases, it is really pretty much simple. If I start my application, I'll start my application. It will be visible in the browser. Wait, I'll open my browser as well. Okay. But what if our API is actually fetching the data from the database or doing complex things, or if it is not a GET request, if it is a POST request or a patch or a put or a delete request? You cannot test that in your browser simply. You'll either have to create a form or you have to use like front-end JavaScript to handle those tasks. So for testing purpose, we'd obviously not want to work that much to just test our APIs. So उसी case में there was this application Postman which was used to test the APIs, but then we are getting an extension in Visual Studio Code, so you don't have to additionally install an application on your device. You can simply go to your extensions tab. You can search for Thunder Client. I'll put it in the chat box. This is the extension, or you can simply search for Thunder Client on your Visual Studio Code. I'm sure you'll get it on top. So once you've installed this extension, you can go, you'll get one tab here. For me, it is right here because I've installed 2 more extensions after that. So I'm not getting to see them. I'm not getting to see it at the bottom. So Thunder Client, what you'll do is you'll simply have to create a new request. On creating a new request, you'll get this separate tab, and inside of it, you simply have to write down the address. So our API, it's working on localhost 5000. So I'll just copy paste it. So now if I send the request, I'll get to see hello world. This is really simple. I'm saying we could have done it in the browser as well. So as you can see, this is visible in the browser as well. But what if it was a post request? So what if I have another request? ठीक है, this is a post request. अब हम कैसे करेंगे? We'll have to create an HTML file, then we'll have to render a form. उसमें हमें action डालना पड़ता post, and we'll have to put in some input fields. But what if I want to test the application without creating the HTML pages? Okay, so what I can do is यहाँ पर there are so many requests. So get, post, put, delete, patch, etc. So I'll simply select post. Why? Because my API is a post request. Then I can hello, I'll just change the statement. Okay. Now I'll send it. You can see यहाँ पर post request आ रहा है. But if I go back to the browser and if I refresh the page, यहाँ पर hello world ही आएगा. क्यों आएगा hello world? Because हम यहाँ पर data ये जो request है, this is a get request. How can you verify that? I guess it will show here. No, it will not show it because it does show it actually. So if you go to your console and you just enable these two XHR and request, this will actually show all the API requests that have been made from your website. For testing purpose, you can go to anything like youtube.com. Then I'll open the developer menu and you can see all the requests. ये देखो सारी get request, या अगर post है तो post request जाएगा. But you can see all the get requests. अगर post होती तो यहाँ post लिख के आता, अगर get होगी तो get लिख के आएगा. ठीक है. Similarly, यहाँ पर ये दिखा रहा है कि हमने get request किया, और normal front end से you guys cannot make a post request. Okay, so in order to test your post request, in order to see if you can actually if you're actually able to sign up or log into your application when you create one, you will have to test your APIs first, right? So उसके लिए ही this is a very handy tool that you can install. I'm sure everyone will install it. Then we can also send data. So Kunal was creating a login page. So what if I wanted to test the API and I don't have a front end? So how I'll do that is, Kunal, what were the 2 parameters that you were sending?
Name and password.
Okay, so I'll create the same 2 things here as well. So name will be Mozum and password will be Awesome as well. So देखो जब हम when we send the data from our front end, it actually goes to the back end in this format. ठीक है? So we are actually creating that format and we are sending the data. Now, how do I test it now? I'll just send it to the front end. So I'll send a request.body. As Kunal has already explained, this is stored in the body.
By the middleware URL encoder.
Sorry.
To use the middleware, right? Express.url encoder. Then only we can.
Okay. So I'll not do that because we are already running short of time. So Kunal is going to share a zip folder which will have everything that he did today. I want everyone to download that zip folder. You have to install this Thunder client, or you can install Postman as well. I'll show you how Postman actually looks. It is pretty much similar to this, but yeah, this was basically the original API testing tool for all the developers, and yeah, I guess it is still preferred by everyone. जब तक ये लोड होता है तब तक समझ आया सबको कि व्हाट इज दी व्हाट दिस बेसिकली डज. तो सिमिलरली हम करते हैं अगर मुझे प्रोफाइल पेज पे जाना है. Again, it is going to be a GET request /profile. I'll send it. I'll get the response here. Now you can either send a normal text or I can send a JSON as well. So response.json name, for example, awesome. ऐसा कुछ कर सकते हैं. Then we'll get the JSON in our response. किसी को कोई डाउट है? देखो इसमें भी exactly ऐसे ही होता है. So you can go to collections, create a new request, enter your URL, select the type of the request, pass in the body में आप लोग डेटा पास कर सकते हो exactly जैसे हमने अभी किया और वैसे ही सब कुछ चल जाएगा. ठीक है? Any doubts? Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, audible भैया.
Yep.
सबसे जवाब चाहिए मुझे. कोई डाउट है इसमें?
No.
Okay.
No way.
So Kunal
No,
will
bro.
share a zip file. You will download the zip file, extract it. You'll get all the files that he was working on today. You will run it locally on your machine. ठीक है? तो I want a screenshot from everyone. ऐसे left ले जाओगे तो यहाँ पर your browser should be visible. ऐसे. On the browser, I should be seeing the output. Okay, जैसे कुणाल में output आ रहा है, कुछ कोड नहीं करना है, बस output दिखाना है यहाँ पर. और यहाँ से I want to see this screen. Thunder client का जो log ये वाला screen है, this should be visible. Am I clear? तो I want a screenshot. यहाँ पर output होना चाहिए और यहाँ पर वो होना चाहिए Thunder client installed वाला. ठीक है? और एक API टेस्ट कर देना. मुझे API एक टेस्ट करके यहाँ पर मुझे response दिखा देना. ठीक है? Everyone should be sharing this screenshot by tonight. Before 12 a.m. I am expecting. I'm sure most of you will do it right now, but yeah, please try to submit it before midnight. Okay? Am I clear?
Yeah, भैया.
Yeah, okay. We'll do it.
Okay, then if you guys don't have any doubts, Kunal, you can take it from there.
Alright guys, that's it for today. I'll share the folder immediately so you guys can get to working on it. If there's no other doubts, you can feel free to leave now. I'll
Bye,
see
भैया.
you soon. Bye, Sal. Have a good night.
There's just one request. Can we have is it possible to have the meeting maybe early, like in the morning on Saturday or maybe on Sunday, if that's possible?